welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me, and thank you to my recent subscribers. In fact, to all my subscribers, thank you very much. Today we are looking at the Shark Byte System from Fat Shark. And I've had this system for a couple of months, so hopefully I can give you a decent impression on it. Some of the little foibles, not many of them actually, and my impressions. And I'm also going to show you a comparison between Fat Shark, Shark Byte there, and the old analog system, which is an AKK and Cadex Tarsier, a 4K camera. So I want to show you penetration there and a little bit of how they behave differently with what I think is a spot of intense Wi-Fi interference that's on this block here. Then we'll have a little look at the end at some proximity flying with the Shark Byte system. So let me get into it by giving you my impressions. So after a couple of months, what are my thoughts? My thoughts are that I'm very happy I have it. It has changed FPV for me with at least one craft. I don't have the M version, the medium-sized version. I guess that's what it stands for, and that may mean there's going to be a large one. And that is actually brings me to one of the things I am really quite excited about with Fat Shark, with the Shark Byte system and Fat Shark's frequent firmware updates of it. Since I've had this, there's been 2 firmware updates, and I have noticed since the last firmware update in April 2021 that it has maybe not on par penetration, but the penetration is a lot better than it was when it first came out. In terms of latency, I have found no difference. In a way, I think it's hard to give a latency comparison when they're so close without using like computers and stuff, because you feel more connected with your environment when you're flying the Shark Byte system than when you're flying analog. You have more information coming in for your brain to use, and it's hard to describe. That could very well be making up for any differences in latency. The fact that you can see better, the fact that you can pick out the branches, pick out a spider web. I'll show you a footage of that now, and you can see this spider web glinting in the sun. Yeah, it's hard to tell if that's a latency thing or if it's down to just that feeling of having a better affinity with the environment when you're flying the craft. Yeah. So, other thoughts. When I was flying the analog system here, I had some issues coming back and flying the digital system. This has only happened once, and what had happened was that, of course, this was plugged in. I had left the system on here, and so the analog system was left on, and so I turned it off and went back to the right source, HDMI 2D, and it just sort of flickered like a white flash and then nothing. And so I power cycled it, and it did it again. And then I think it was the 3rd time I power cycled it, and I actually turned on the receiver again, the analog receiver, and then I turned it off again, and it worked. So, and I believe, if I recall correctly, I was watching the HDMI 2D source when that happened. So that was the only weird thing that has happened to me. It was a little frustrating because I've had so many problems with my Spectrum IX12 lately that It's just been going out to fly and not flying has been a bit boring sometimes. Anyway, so that's the only problem I've really had with it. In terms of working in the Australian climate, I have used it on a few hot days and it seems absolutely fine with that. So I've been running them on these Zop Power, cheapo, not flight-worthy packs. They say 65C, what they mean is 6.5C. But they are, you know, like almost 2 amp hour packs. They're not 2 amp hour, but they're 1800 milliamp hour, but they've just not got the C rating that they claim to have. So I've been running them off these 4S packs and they seem absolutely fine with that. I haven't had a point where I've run out of battery flying. That said, I haven't been flying the drift with them. Haven't been flying drift much lately, unfortunately, because of the controller issues and not knowing if I can swap back and forth controllers, models reliably on it, and all sorts of weirdness. Yeah, like that, like a 45-minute flight or a 40-minute flight or a 20-minute flight, back to back, a couple of those, maybe I'm gonna have issues with battery. I'm gonna have to put a buzzer on it if I'm gonna go do that. Any other thoughts I have on the system? It would be nice to see like a 35mm like a pattern stack, so it can fit onto a standard stack. That would be cool. It's not entirely impossible to install. This is a slammed deck here, and it fits just under there, but it is extremely tight. There is not much room in there at all, and it's a good thing that the batteries absorb so much of the impacts that happen from above, or not from above, but when you land on the top, because that is the only thing that really worries me. Crash test endurance so far, so good. This has had, I think, 3 significant crashes with the Shark Byte system, and it's flown through. You can see on the color of the props here, that's ticking. That's currently bent in, like needs to be pushed out. I need to loosen the bolts and push back out. And that's how hard of a crash it had yesterday. It really, like, it whacked and then whacked. Ow, sharp. And on the note of that crash, there's been some damage up here, and I'll show you a photo of that now. That may lead to a subsequent video about how to fix the threading at the top if you've had this problem. I think I know how I can fix this pretty reliably, and I don't think that it's going to be an issue if this is a non-ferrous metal, and I'm pretty sure this is a non-ferrous. So it's had a number of hits, and you can see it's tight in there, and it survived. There was an artifacting issue I had with it that occurred once, and I'll have to go search for the file and put it up here. And as you can see, it was an OSD artifact, and I'm not entirely sure why it happened, and it hasn't happened again. So yeah, we'll just call that a random occurrence. Maybe it was something to do with the canvas OSD, and since it's a bit more sensitive, but I haven't seen it repeat itself from another crash. The weight of the system on your head, it is notably heavier than the goggles without it. But there is a third strap option, and you could get the third strap option and use that, and that would alleviate that somewhat. It's not a problem though, although I don't recommend jumping off short walls with the goggles not securely held in position. They might just run down your face. So the firmware updates that have been really frequent make me quite hopeful for the future. There's a lot that they've said they're going to do, and a lot that they've done. I'm not going to go into that right now because it will just date this video horribly. But it does make me really hopeful for the future, and it's really nice to see a company that's thinking about the future of its product and how it's going to etch its place in the marketplace out and secure its customers' patronage. That's really nice to see. So often in today's day and age, companies are producing bottom dollar gear that is not as good as it should be, and quite often the customer service they follow that gear up with is just well, worse than the equipment sometimes. Although I have to say, on my bench right now, I'm pretty happy with everyone, except there is an offender here. So anyway, let's go have a look at that comparison footage. Okay, so here we are, and there's Lulu the Poach. So this is the system as I first got it. As you can see, there's wobble there from the camera mount. If you look back at the installation videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. And there was the interference area I just went through, and here is the penetration. As you can see, penetration was not very good, and as I come back round, the interference coming behind these trees was just pretty bad. But I mean, all what I'm doing here is coming in and out of a long-range Wi-Fi connection, and as you can see, it doesn't make too much difference to it. That handles it. The system seems to handle the Wi-Fi pretty well. And yeah, let's have a look at what it's like after that firmware update. And here we are with the improved firmware as I tap that branch coming through. And not much interference there, and coming around behind this building, still can see what I'm doing, although I didn't really hang about. And I did want to do that again, but unfortunately, maybe it was something to do with the tap on that branch, but the number 3 ESC, which is the front left there, that's gone. So need a new ESC for this puppy. So anyway, as I come down here into this deeper area, this is a really, you know, a bit of a dead zone. And that big gum tree back there, I'm going to turn around and fly backwards here slowly, but that big gum tree, it's sort of my measuring point. If I can fly back there and not have to bail forward to get my visual back, then I know I've got reasonable penetration and I can be reasonably comfortable with it. Now that's pretty broken up, but I can still see the horizon. As you can see, I'm still airborne there. That's pretty damn good. I am impressed. What else is there to say about that? I mean, that's fantastic work, Fat Shark. Thank you for improving it, and I want to see more, please. Anyway, as we keep going, pretty pleased. As we keep going, just going to have a little bit of fun with the rest of that flight, and we're going to move on to the comparison with 4K and analog. So in the lower left there, you've got the 4K, and on the analog feed, you can see they're slightly out of sync, and I'm sorry about that. It's because there's a skip coming up when I lose reception as I land here behind the building. So plop, and it skips there, and it syncs back up now. And as you can see, we can still see pretty well enough, you know, not bad. It's got a better penetration. So here is the Shark Byte, and that's the latest firmware there, and that's the worst frame I've found. Here is the average analog, or the frame that I would say would, you know, come across as average. And here is the worst analog frame. Now, if you have a close look, you can see the line of the bench and the doors. You can still see the line of the bench and the doors. So I've swapped them around now, and then we can dreamily look at what we hope that digital FPV will be like one day. But really, I always want to point out that even here, with the analog setup, I'm able to fly, you know, through some tiny gaps. And see the spiderweb at least when it's got some debris in it. Couldn't see the spiderweb itself. So, you know. I mean, it's one of those things, like, the system is, it's the only reason not to change is if you want to get onboard recording with something at this point in time, or you haven't got the money. I mean, analog is perfectly capable, and there are some benefits I feel from the Fat Shark system, but I wouldn't say, you know, it's
as good as the 4K in any way, and that the difference is night and day between analog and digital Fat Shark. But as you can see here, I can see clearer than this as well, which is odd considering I'm using HD3s. But the affinity I feel with the craft in close proximity is just, I mean, I tapped the branch there with the back prop, is so, it makes me feel so much more connected with the flight. So, you know, there is that, and that's kind of why a lot of us fly, isn't it, for that feeling? So, yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. So, last thing I should really talk about before I let you enjoy a little bit of freestyle and a bit of music and end the video and stop waffling on, is the toughness of the system. As I've had it mounted, it's had a number of crashes. I fly pretty hard, and I'm no Mr. Steel, so I do crash a lot. And yeah, I'm pretty impressed. In fact, I've been flying it so hard that the ESC has developed an issue, and I've got two faults to the negative rail on ESC number 3. And it's running a 4-in-1, so I'm gonna have to replace that with a new board, because I don't have any donors to try a MOSFET transplant. That would be pretty interesting, and I'd be keen to try it, but I just don't have any donors. Anyway, that's just about enough from me. If you've watched all the way through, I'd like to say thank you very much. And the short and long of it is, yeah, I'd get it if I was running one of these sets of goggles and didn't want to go the DJI route. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Please have a great day. I hope you enjoy the flying and the music.
door. Then you have
Escaping Magic Pixies, because that's when the ESC blew.
Never forget, it's up to you to make life fun. Thanks again for watching. Peace out.